Yeah, first of all, I just got to mention that the political situation for Democrats down here in the Senate was a lot like it was last week in the House, meaning Democrats are in the minority and they needed a couple of Republican lawmakers to cross the aisle and join them if they wanted to make this repeal happen. And Republican Senators T.J. Shope from Coolidge and Shauna Bullock from Paradise Valley gave Democrats the votes they needed. Following the vote, Democrats said they were grateful and expressed their relief. And the repeal likely won't happen until late summer or early fall, which is shortly before voters will have a say on a ballot initiative that protects abortion rights in the state constitution. So I asked Democratic Senator Ava Birch why she was dead set on passing this repeal now.
Repealing this ban is an important step in the right direction. So whether or not that goes into effect before November is irrelevant, because they were going to go back to that ban and back to that ban and back to that ban again. We need to repeal it.
And as the head of this body.
Now, obviously, most Republicans were deeply disappointed with the vote turnout today. Again, all but 2 of the 16 GOP senators voted against repealing this ban. All of them were elected on an anti-abortion platform and endorsed by one of the top anti-abortion activists in the state, Kathy Herod. Now, as the focus shifts to the likely November ballot initiative, Herod said she's going to fight and do everything she can to defeat it.
I don't see any other action in the legislature. I think the focus should be 100% on defeating the proposed amendment, which would be unrestricted, unregulated abortion in Arizona. It's not where the voters are. It's not where Arizonans are. So let's focus on defeating Planned Parenthood's unrestricted, unregulated amendment.
And Herod has told me in the very recent past that she will hold these Republicans who helped Democrats get this repeal to the finish line. She's going to hold them accountable at the ballot box. And I also want to add that when this repeal does take effect, the state will then immediately revert to that 15-week ban, which would outlaw abortions after 15 weeks and would not include any exceptions for rape or incest. Live at the Capitol, Dennis Welch, Arizona's Family.
Well, Dennis, Republicans have the control down there. Do they have anything else planned at this point?
Well, is the focus, again, everybody seems to be shifting to that ballot initiative, and the Republicans appear that they are having at least one eye towards that as well. A couple of weeks ago, a plan was accidentally leaked out in the House, and that plan was to refer several ballot initiatives dealing with abortion to the ballot in November, and the hopes there is that it would, quote, dilute the vote for the Abortion Access Act that is working its way right now to the ballot. So we don't know if or when they're going to do that, but that is something that Republicans down here are considering as a way to combat that effort, guys.